to another one, Bitcoin and Markets. Ansel Lindner live on YouTube and Telegram. If you watch us on YouTube, join the Telegram community, t.me/Bitcoin and Markets. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Happy New Year, everybody. January 2nd, 2026. We're jumping into it with some good price action here on Bitcoin, and we're going to go through the chart. We're going to go through some educational stuff. In 2026, I really want to make at least a push, I don't know, 10, 20% of my Bitcoin content. I want it to be Bitcoin education. In recent years, since pretty much COVID, I would say, especially in this bull market, we've been much more concentrated on furthering education for people that have already come to Bitcoin. So if you joined in 2016-17 cycle, by 2022, we're starting to learn other things, maybe more about options, more about ETFs, more about the government involvement in this. Preferred shares, all this different stuff, but it's lack of a lot of like very basic Bitcoin stuff, at least what I have seen. And so I wanted to bring it back a little bit to some basics for newbies that are coming in. Make sure you guys go to bitcoinandmarkets.com, sign up for at least a free account to get the free blog posts that come out, but you can also become a member there. $5 a month gets you access to different member perks, the main one being the price forecast competition. So every month we do a price forecast competition. You guess what you think, or you predict, forecast what you think is going to be the price at the end of the month. And then the closest person wins $20 in sats over Lightning. So it's kind of fun way to just be involved, have a little competition, have a little community building. So check that out, bitcoinandmarkets.com. And there's also another tier for my pro content that is paid only. You can find that on Substack as well. But on the website, you can find all the tiers that you could want. Okay, let's go over price. So Bitcoin breaking up above the 50-day moving average for the first time in a long while. Let's see, going back, we did close once above it back in October 6th. But before that, you have to go back to October 12th and really back to the all-time high. I mean, reaching all-time high, we rapidly went below the 50-day moving average and didn't ever really get back above it until right now. If we close above this with a good push towards the end of the day, that would be good. Usually we have flat price action over the weekends, but there's always a chance that we could get more bullish price movement over the weekend as well and have a gap on those legacy markets that don't trade, like IBIT, CME futures. Those things would have a gap. Um, but anyway, so that's what we're looking at for price, right over the 50-day moving average, breaking out of this kind of downtrend here, flat bottom. It doesn't look super strong yet, but we will see. Once we get back up here to 93, 94, then I think we can start saying this is a strong breakout. But right now, it is, I guess, not looking really strong. Let's go around to some other assets here. So gold topped out, big down day, really hasn't been able to find its footing. We will see if it does over the next few days. Let's go look at the 20-day moving average, where that is. So it's sitting right on the 20-day moving average, trying to hold that. We will see if that's possible or not. I think this is a generational high. Whether it goes a little bit higher here in January, February, it's getting very close to the top. I mean, it's extremely oversold. This is the main thing that I'm watching. This is the monthly, and you can see just how oversold it is all the way up here at 92. It's the highest since 1973 on the monthly. So this is a very, very oversold chart on the monthly. So it could either top in December, it's already topped, or it could top in January, February. We will see what happens here with gold. But I think it is in for a major correction, as well as silver too. Um, and then Bitcoin can take over. Bitcoins move, gold, silver move first, then Bitcoin moves. All right, DXY, let's go down to the daily. Holding this bottom. I mean, not looking super strong, not looking super weak. We're not seeing a death of a dollar or anything like that. Overall, I do expect it to continue to strengthen. We will see how that develops in the new year. US 10-year gapped higher, ended the day flat. But watching this because I do expect the 10-year to start coming down. If it does not come down, we have to reevaluate what the core growth outlook is for the United States because the 10-year is growth and inflation expectations. And in this market specifically, if it's going to go higher, um, that's going to be a growth message because inflation is relatively consistent. Trueflation is coming down under 2% now. So we have consistent prices. And so this would be a growth story. And we are starting to see some signs that the investments made in the United States could be paying off. We see really high export numbers, low deficit, trade deficit numbers, at least trending downward. So some of these things could be turning over in 2026. A lot of people, including myself, are expecting a good half of 2026. So that this would tell us, how that market is seeing growth expectations for the United States right now. It's not taking off, but there's possibility that we see this move up into the mid 4.2s, 4.25, something like that over the next week or two. All right, US oil, pretty weak, nothing exceptional. This is right in line with what I've been predicting for a very long time. Just very low marginal demand. Globally, the economy is not doing so well. I still think China is really hurting. Okay, S&P 500, um, not strong, but not falling off a cliff. So kind of boring for most markets here moving into the new year. The most exciting one, of course, that we are going to fixate on is Bitcoin looking like it could be breaking out here. All right, let me see if there's any comments. No, all right. I wanted to take a look at a couple videos. Speaking of education, okay. All right. This one is it's going to be about cryptography. And a lot of Bitcoiners probably know this stuff, but I wanted to take a look at it.
Our network.
And just where it starts here. Let's see. Okay. This is about hash functions. And when I got into Bitcoin, um, I understood the economics, I thought, pretty well. And what really was the aha moment for me was one-way hash functions. Was it might have been this exact video. When did this come out? 13 years ago. So it might have been this exact video. I don't know. But I was watching it and just something struck me. Aha. Yeah, this is secure. But let's go ahead and watch this.
Emerged. At the time, encryption required two parties to first share a secret random number known as a key.
And actually, before I do that, let me make sure that I'm sharing sound everywhere. Share. Okay. And I'm pretty sure. Oh, I'm not sharing the right screen. There we go. Okay, let's go.
So how could two people who have never met agree on a secret shared key without letting Eve, who is always listening, also obtain a copy?
Oh, Eve.
In 1976, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman devised an amazing trick to do this. First, let's explore how this trick is done using colors. How could Alice and Bob agree on a secret color without Eve finding it out? The trick is based on two facts. One, it's easy to mix two colors together to make a third color. And two, given a mixed color, it's hard to reverse it in order to find the exact original colors. This is the basis for a lock. Easy in one direction, hard in the reverse direction. This is known as a one-way function. Now, the solution works as follows. First, agree publicly on a starting color, say yellow. Next, Alice and Bob both randomly select private colors and mix them into the public yellow in order to disguise their private colors. Now, Alice keeps her private color and sends her mixture to Bob, and Bob keeps his private color and sends his mixture to Alice. Now the heart of the trick. Alice and Bob add their private colors to the other person's mixture and arrived at a shared secret color. Notice how Eve is unable to determine this exact color since she needs one of their private colors to do so. And that is the trick.
Have you guys seen this video? I like it because it's Eli 5 for everybody. Everybody can get it.
Now, to do this with numbers, a numerical procedure, which is easy in one direction and hard in the other. This brings us to modular arithmetic, also known as clock arithmetic. For example, to find 46 mod 12, we could take a rope of length 46 units and wrap it around a clock of 12 units, which is called the modulus, and where the rope ends is the solution. So we say 46 mod 12 is congruent to 10. Easy. Now, to make this work, we use a prime modulus, such as 17, then we find a primitive root of 17, in this case 3, which has this important property that when raised to different exponents, the solution distributes uniformly around the clock. 3 is known as the generator. If we raise 3 to any exponent x, then the solution is equally likely to be any integer between 0 and 17. Now, the reverse procedure is hard. Say, given 12, find the exponent 3 needs to be raised to. This is called the discrete logarithm problem. And now we have our one-way function, easy to perform, but hard to reverse. Given 12, we would have to resort to trial and error to find matching exponents. How hard is this? Well, with small numbers it's easy, but if we use a prime modulus which is hundreds of digits long, it becomes impractical to solve. Even if you had access to all computational power on Earth, it could take thousands of years to run through all possibilities. So the strength of a one-way function is based on the time needed to reverse it. Now, this is our solution. First, Alice and Bob agree publicly on a prime modulus and a generator, in this case 17 and 3. Then, Alice selects a private random number, say 15, and calculates 3.
This is also how you know that there's not like any CIA or NSA in the source code of Bitcoin, even though you can go through and read the source code of Bitcoin. I can't, but people can. But also because of the idea of cryptography and the idea of this type of public-private key cryptography, it's just math, right? So, all right.
3 to the power 15 mod 17 and sends this result publicly to Bob. Then Bob selects his private random number, say 13, and calculates 3 to the power 13 mod 17 and sends this result publicly to Alice. And now the heart of the trick. Alice takes Bob's public result and raises it to the power of her private number to obtain the shared secret, which in this case is 10. Bob takes Alice's public result and raises it to the power of his private number, resulting in the same shared secret. Notice they did the same calculation, though it may not look like it at first. Consider Alice. The 12 she received from Bob was calculated as 3 to the power 13 mod 17. So her calculation was the same as 3 to the power 13 to the power 15 mod 17. Now consider Bob. The 6 he received from Alice was calculated as 3 to the power 15 mod 17. So his calculation was the same as 3 to the power 15 to the power 13. Notice they did the same calculation with the exponents in a different order. When you flip the exponent, the result doesn't change. So they both calculated 3 raised to the power of their private numbers. Without one of these private numbers, 15 or 13, Eve will not be able to find the solution. And this is how it's done. While Eve is stuck grinding away at the discrete logarithm problem, and with large enough numbers, we can say it's practically impossible for her to break the encryption in a reasonable amount of time. This solves the key exchange problem. It can be used in conjunction with a pseudo-random generator to encrypt messages between people who have never met.
All right. So that's that. Thought it was good. And I remember watching that video or one very similar to it years ago, and that was my aha moment. So, all right. I wanted to take a look at another video here of Tomer Strolight and react to it. So let's see if where it is. See if there's any comments. I'm not seeing any from YouTube. Guys, put your comments down below. And not seeing any from Telegram either. All right. Questions, comments, put them in there, guys. Oh, I saw this one. This was pretty big. Interesting. Coinbase is now accepting hash rate as collateral. This is a massive signal for the mining industry. They call it flexible collateral packages, up to 50% hash rate, 50% Bitcoin. Very, very interesting. That's thinking outside the box, using hash rate as collateral. Okay. If you didn't check out the space this morning, make sure you check it out. Where was it? Let's see. Here it is. Okay, so Tomer was saying we need some more education in Bitcoin. I agree with him. That's why I'm kind of doing this education push. But here he's talking about Bitcoin as world peace or empire of peace. And I just wanted to listen through it and make some comments on it. And you guys can make your comments and we can go from there. So let's do it.
I think the argument to say why Bitcoin leads to world peace is as follows. It's politics that creates war. It's the exploitation of people by people who they tried to put in charge of other people, and those people betrayed the trust that leads to the breakdown of civilization. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no crime or there's no violence, but world peace in the sense of that resources aren't directed to destroy cities, countries, whole groups of people. I think those things come from the failure of leaders and the inevitable failure of leaders when we put leaders in charge. And I think what's so magical about Bitcoin is it has no leaders. And so it has no one to declare war on anybody else.
Okay, just real quick up here. His first comment was Bitcoin leads to world peace. You guys know me. I think Bitcoin is an inert tool. Using of Bitcoin, the saying that Bitcoin changes you more than you can change Bitcoin. That's true on, I guess, an individual level. But Bitcoin is not going to bring about world peace. It's just a passive actor. It's not an active agent out there creating changes. And the adoption profile of Bitcoin is not of great economics. A boom time is going to lead people to adopt Bitcoin. Peace and prosperity is not going to lead people to adopt Bitcoin. What's going to lead people to adopt Bitcoin is the opposite, actually, deglobalization, deflation, depopulation. That's what's going to make people go adopt Bitcoin. And that's a much more violent world, actually. So as the world gets more violent, we're seeing in Iran, we're seeing in Ukraine, we're seeing in Venezuela, we're seeing in Taiwan. As these things kick off, then that's a more violent world, and that leads to more adoption of Bitcoin because people lose trust in the system, and Bitcoin is seen as manifesting trust. So I don't agree that Bitcoin leads to world peace. And then he talked about politics. Um, Politics leads to war. Well, war is like, yeah, war is an extension of politics, but it's not like just faulty leaders. Okay. So, especially in the systems that we have today, leaders are kind of a manifestation of the people. And you have corrupt people. You have 51% of the people voting to exploit the 49%. So his view seems to be that the body politic are perfect and wholesome and serene and peaceful and prosperous if just left alone. But that's not the case. Okay. 51% of the people will steal from 49%. And not even that. You might get activists, right? A group of 20% of the population are really hardcore activists and they get into positions of power and they corrupt the system, like we're seeing in Minnesota too, right? So it's not a fact that leaders are failing necessarily, it's that people are failing. The people are corrupt. That's the human nature. All right, let's keep going.
No one's got enough power to declare war. Everyone's just so busy being productive and working and living in peace and creating things that make them and their neighbors happy and their friends happy. They forget that there just isn't anyone in charge to divide them against somebody else. And
I mean, that's completely wrong. There are people are divided naturally into tribes and into interest groups and other things, and you can't stop your neighbor from committing violence against you. There's going to be people that try to steal from you and stuff like that. Um, and he's talking about peace and prosperity. Okay, everyone's going to be so peaceful and so prosperous, and no one's going to want to hurt anybody. Of course, that's wrong. If you are peace and prosperity, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have elastic money. You're not going to want sound money. If you trust everybody, there's going to be credit based money and it's going to be lent out and you're going to be prosperous. You know, if you can get a loan and get 20% return on your money, you don't necessarily care about 3, 4, 5% inflation. I mean, it's not the best, but you'll deal with it. You'll be fine because you're getting so much more. You're getting that 20% return. So in highly prosperous times, inflation, you can handle inflation and you want that inflation because you want credit, you want to expand, you want to build. That's what happens in those periods. It's when the returns are 1 2%, when you're barely growing or you're in recession, you're actually shrinking the economy and there's nowhere to get yield. That's when you can't stand inflation because it puts you even further behind. So let's say you're just holding on. You're not growing. You're at 0% growth. You can't find return on investment anywhere, but you have 3% inflation. That's when you're like, this system is not working. We need to go away from this inflationary system and go back to sound money. So in this utopian peace and prosperity world, you're actually not going to be on sound money. You're going to be on inflation elastic money. Okay.
say you've got to kill those people because they're different. Their skin color is different. Their God is different. Their attitude towards vaccine is different. Like they just don't. You don't end up having that sort of thing under a system which doesn't have leaders. And right now around the world, people can't imagine a system without leaders. Right? It's like, oh, well, who's going to tell us what to do? And like what Satoshi showed was, here's
Well, humans have natural hierarchy, right? There's always going to be leaders. So there's no getting away from that. And you know, the communists, it's not communist. Communism is not just a handful of corrupt leaders. Okay, there are people that truly believe in cultural Marxism. They will put you in gulags. If left to their own devices, they will have mobs on the street rounding people up and putting them in gulags. They don't need a leader to tell them that. There's demons amongst us.
rules. If you like them, follow them. I'm out of here. No lead, and no one can come in and step. And so we have this prototypical system that's remarkable in its indestructibility, right? Like
Chirp, and you say that he has a good heart. Yeah, I think he does. And like I said, he has said he had put out a clarion call for people to do more education, and I'm taking his advice and I'm doing that. I think that's a good thing. But I think that he's also here um, trying to steel man like uh, anarcho-capitalism. And 10 years ago, I would have been all on board with him. But nope, seen too much, seen the hearts of men. And this is not going to go the way that he thinks it's going to go. And so I think it's important to push back on that as well. And also, like, where to put your money. Yes, you want to save in Bitcoin, but as Bitcoin grows and becomes more fully adopted, there's going to be less return, right? We talked about this on the space this morning, and I've talked about this in writing way back with Bitcoin Magazine Pro. Um, when what is the logical biggest size that Bitcoin can get to? 100 trillion, maybe, right? 100 trillion. So if we're talking that it's right now it's 2 trillion, so a 50x from here. What if we 10x and we get to a million? You know, that getting to that last bit, getting that next level from there, it's going to take a long time. It's going to be very hard. It's not going to be fast returns. It's not going to be 40% CAGR. It's going to be a 5% CAGR, right? And so as Bitcoin grows, the returns are going to slow down, and people are probably going to invest in other places. Where you can invest, you can't just hold Bitcoin, but I think to put yourself in the best position, you're going to want to know what's going on geopolitically, what's going on with, do you want to invest in Japan? Do you want to invest in China? American companies? What industries? And so looking at these things and trying to forecast the future is very important, and it's not going to be an anarchist future, an ANCAP future. It's just not going to be. We're going back into an era of protectionism and everything. So if you want to be able to forecast the future correctly or somewhat accurately, you have to have the right foundation, and it's just not going to be empire of peace, right?
countries with leaders can't destroy this thing with no leaders. All the countries with all the leaders can't destroy this thing, Bitcoin, with no leader. It's a more robust platform, and this thing comes in peace, and this thing is peaceful. It's not looking to destroy them. It's not declaring war on them. It's declaring peace on everyone. It says, come if you want. So I think
Gold did the same thing, right? Gold came in peace. It didn't try to declare war on anybody, but it failed.
we have this remarkable first time in history invention that is able to utilize math and physics to be a greater entity than the state. I did write one piece a while ago called An Empire for Us All. It talked about the rise.
Well, that is a good point. I mean, like, gold is a bigger entity, I guess you could call it. It's a bigger thing than states. It was the substructure of what states would use. So money is bigger than any one state, whether that be gold, silver, Bitcoin. And we're in an era right now where it's not, right? It's all dependent on US treasuries, US dollars, and that stuff. So I do get his point there that Bitcoin is actually should be viewed as, well, it's a different category than a state, but it's kind of like a substructure that is held in common between states. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
And fall of empires, how they always collapse, often because of the debasement of the money. And so, how do you know you're in an empire? There's two signs. You see its soldiers, its flags, you see that, or you use its money. This is the coin of the Empire of the United States of America, or the United Kingdom, or the Mongol Empire, or the Roman Empire. This Bitcoin is being used all over the world, not widely, but everywhere in the world it's being used. This coin is this empire with that has a coin and no army, and no flag, right? But it definitely has laws. It definitely has rules, and these rules are voluntary but inviolable, right? If you use the coin, you're signing up for the contract of not breaking the rules. And so here is this newly founding empire that's not conquering country by country through violence, but winning over individual by individual all over the world.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a category error. Bitcoin is not an empire, and those inviolable rules, true, but there's no like laws. Bitcoin doesn't say you can't kill somebody. Bitcoin doesn't say you can't steal from somebody. Bitcoin can't say what's a scam or what's not a scam. If you give somebody your Bitcoin, that's no longer your Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if it was fraudulent. So it's a different category. You have software rules, yes, and then you have that creates the asset, the inviolable asset. But then you also have a superstructure of laws on top. Stand by. My son was just running past my office. Okay.
And growing in its purpose. And so it's like blooming all over the world. And it is an empire for us all. And when more and more people are convinced of it, then more and more people live in this peaceful empire. Empires are generally known for having great peaceful periods until some leader fucks it up, right? But there was the Pax Romana, there was the Pax Americana, and there will
Yeah, they had leaders that fucked it up, but they also had leaders that created it and maintained it for a long time.
be the Pax Bitcoinia, and perhaps it will last for millions of years.
Okay, Pax Romana and Pax Americana. Those are defined by the state or the empire, whatever. And it wasn't called the Pax Goldica or the Pax Silverca. Why would it be called the Pax Bitcoinica? It's just the money being used. I think the Pax Americana is going to go on for Pax Americana might be over for the time being, but if it's resurgent, it'll be resurgent from a Bitcoin lens, and it will just be an extension of the first Pax Americana, but it won't be Pax Bitcoinica.
Of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, who knows exactly how long, because it doesn't succumb to what the other empires succumbed to, which was a leader debasing the currency, because no leader can debase Bitcoin because it has no leader and it is undebasable. It's got double protection against the things that destroyed empires, which is just really awesome.
I think this is a little bit of a misnomer here. So gold is not debasable either. 1 ounce of gold is 1 ounce of gold. So 1 ounce of 99.99 gold is 1 ounce of 99.99 gold. Now, what's debasable is the currency on top of that, right? So Bitcoin is like gold. It's not debasable, but whatever is built on top of Bitcoin will be. It is very inflation resistant or debasing resistant, but not everybody can transact on chain. And decentralized layer twos like Lightning, while promising and hopefully this will continue to grow and get better. But right now, it's logical that there's going to be some sort of layer two, governmental layer two, and whether that's side chain, which I like that idea, or it's actually a stable coin. Because what if they pegged Bitcoin to the dollar at 10 sats per dollar? 10 sats per dollar, then you use a stable coin. And that stable coin is pegged to 10 sats per dollar. Then they can debase that too, right? They can make it 9, 8, 7. So it's Bitcoin is debasement resistant the same way gold itself, the element is debasement resistant. And it has less of a need to go into centralized vaults. So you can say that is more debasement resistant than gold, but there's still the ability to debase Bitcoin derived currencies, not Bitcoin itself, just like not gold itself. So anyway, well, I wonder what you guys think of that. That was the end of that video. Hopefully a little education going on. Not sure, but wonder what you guys think. All right. Let's see if there's anything else going on around here we can talk about. This was interesting. Bitcoin obituaries fell to 0 in 2025, peaked back in scaling conflict 2017, and now it's non-existent. That's a huge difference from when we, the community back here, we had to fight all this FUD, and now we're not really fighting too much FUD, to be honest with you. MSTR is about the only FUD that we're fighting. A little bit of Tether FUD, but all right, what else we got here? This will be interesting. On the space this morning, we talked about this this market structure bill that might be passed, because John Ficori was talking about, hey, the big thing is going to be when it's easy to get into retirement accounts and the passive investing and all this stuff. And a lot of this market structure regulation and other things needs to get hammered out. So we get these passive flows that keep flowing into Bitcoin. I think that's true. That will be a very, very big benefit to Bitcoin. But I think we're going to have these pricing in events. So Bitcoin is going to be stagnant for a long period of time. And then it's, the market's going to sniff that something's changing, something's getting better. There's a movement here, and we're going to have a repricing event that happens before everybody can get in. You're not, the market isn't going to allow these passive flow people to just get a free 20% return on Bitcoin every year. No, they're going to reprice it. And if you're not in, you lost out on those gains, and then it's going to be held steady for a long period of time. So that's how I kind of see this. A repricing event, I think, is coming in the first half of 2026, but we'll see where that goes. Let me see if there's any comments. Yeah, I don't want to be seen like I'm beating up on Tomer or anything. I just think we need to get the right framework here. All right, back to Bitcoin. Well, I'm not seeing any comments. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and end it on YouTube. I'll go a few more minutes here on Telegram, but that will be it. So guys, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, come on over to the Telegram. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.